Welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast, where we empower and inspire you to reach your fitness goals through strength and community. I'm one of your hosts, Morgan Klein, and today we have a special guest, Maddie Miles, who is a board-certified IHP herbalist. So Maddie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Morgan. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a board-certified herbalist.
Yes. So the IHP is Integrative Health Practitioner, and I got into this realm because long story short, without getting into every nitty-gritty detail, I was very sick from a very young age for a super, super long time. This was back when, natural medicine has always been around, right? Way longer than Western medicine, but it was also really suppressed and taboo for a very, very long time as well. And when I was younger and when I was struggling with an eating disorder and OCD and depression, anxiety, all of these diagnoses were just thrown on me from a very, very young age, and then just prescribed a pill for it. And I was in and out of hospitals and partial hospitalization programs. So I was really in and out of the system from a patient perspective, a patient role, for about 10 years. And then the final time that I was hospitalized, I finally approached my parents myself, and I was young. I was a senior in high school then. I said, I understand that there is an issue and I don't want this for my life either, but what you all have been doing thus far, like the programs that you've been putting me into out of fear, right? Like there was especially now, no judgment on my parents for that, but they were scared as heck. And so they just did what they thought they knew was best. And I said, we need a new approach. There has to be something else than me just getting, drugged up with medications. Yeah. And having feeding tubes every few months, there has to be something else. So my mom went back to the drawing board. She found this integrative health and medicine clinic right outside of Chicago. It took us with traffic like 2 hours round trip to get to, but we did it. And that was the first time that not only did I truly start to heal, and it was a long process. It did not happen, in a month with them. It was years and years with them. But, it was the first time that I really started to heal. And I also was being introduced to these concepts of, nutrition, right? Like I feel like as a young kid, as a young girl, especially once I had started struggling with my eating disorder, food was of all sorts was just the bad thing, right? Like I didn't want to consume it. And then even before my eating disorder, there was I don't even think we called it healthy food, but like what mom would make us for dinner, and like lots of vegetables. And we didn't particularly like that. I remember my siblings and I. And then there was like our junk food, right? Like there's literally like a junk food closet in the basement, and that fridge had like soda pop. So, transitioning into this integrative health and medicine clinic, I was learning so much, not just to heal everything that I had been struggling with at the time, but also I was just nerding out on all this stuff. I didn't know that nutrition had such a profound impact on our mood and on our sleep and on our hormones and our cycle. And I didn't even know what hormones were or what they did. So I embarked on this really deep journey with them for myself and for my own health and well-being. And I decided I was going to go and study nutrition and dietetics in undergrad. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm going to be a dietitian, because I had seen so many dietitians at that point in my own healing journey. And I was like, that's what I want to do, right? And when I was in my specific program for nutrition and dietetics, I really did not resonate with it, because it was actually just reminding me of everything that I had gone through within Western medicine. Yeah. And it was very sterile. That's like the best, simplest way I can describe it. It was sterile. And then everything that I was doing on the side for my own health, I was like, we're not learning any of this in school. So when I graduated, I knew that I wanted to further my education, but on a more natural, holistic route. I had no idea what that was at the time. And I found the Institute of Integrative Health Practitioners. I also found Trinity University of Natural Health and Medicine. And so that's where I embarked on. And that's where I just chose various paths, one of them being herbalism. I love herbs. I have ever since I was little. I've just loved being outside. I found so much comfort in being outside, barefoot, running around, just frolicking in the trees. My favorite part about the house that we grew up in was the backyard, and it was just all these trees, and we'd climb up the trees, and I just knew that where I felt the most comfortable and where I found the most healing as well was herbal medicine. So I knew that I wanted to have like all of the knowledge that I already had thus far of healing my own body. I wanted to know it in like the kind of textbook setting, the more clinical setting, and I wanted like the wide range of that knowledge, hence the integrative health and medicine route. And then I wanted to really focus on herbalism because I just, with all the things that were kind of slapped on me and that I was labeled as, everything from sleep to the depression to, you know, perhaps it was also when I contracted Lyme, it was always herbs. So I knew that I wanted to go back to herbs. I'm so happy that I did because that's why I'm where I'm at right now. I've decided to focus on women's health because hormonal birth control was the last thing that I had to reassess and be like, okay, I'm still like, you know, I've been doing all this work on myself for the last, at the time it had been 5 years, but I still wasn't feeling like fully Maddie, fully myself. What could it be? And, you know, one thing led to the next. I started exploring hormonal birth control. I was on the pill, I was on the combo pill, and my eyes were opened and I was shocked and I was mad and I was sad and I was all of these emotions and I prepped myself for stopping and I did. And I was like, oh my gosh, like 99.9% of my issues just cleared up from, you know, stopping the pill. Yeah. And so I knew that I needed to make a change and a difference in this world. I knew that like because I was really struggling trying to find a practitioner to help me stop the pill. I did not have a supportive gynecologist, so I was trying to find a practitioner, couldn't find one. I was like, I'll be my own. And I also was really desperately trying to find someone young in their 20s who wasn't like married and trying to have kids, who was just like someone like me, someone relatable, right? Who like is hormonal birth control free, who's living their life, who's taking care of their fertility, who, you know, has fun in other ways than going out to the bar and drinking. And I literally could not find her. And so I was like, okay, well then I'll just be her for others. And it's crazy. It's so beautiful and crazy hopping on social media now, and maybe this is just perhaps my algorithm now, but like I feel like it is the thing now. Like everyone just is so curious about their body, and for the right reasons, right? Like we're curious about our bodies. We've realized that a lot of our power and connection to our bodies has been stripped away from us, from like it's just ingrained in society from like the moment we're born. And so we're reclaiming that power. It's beautiful to see women of all ages, all walks of life, you know, and everyone's expression of their interest with their own body is very unique to them, you know, but the underlying kind of like theme that I see is just women caring about their hormones, you know? And so it's really beautiful to see. It was not like this. Heck, I don't even feel like I recall seeing this much social media attention about it even just 2 years ago. Like this is all very, very new, and I hope that it's here to stay. I really hope it's not a fad, because it's not a fad, right? Like it's us, it's our biochemical makeup. We're with it you know, for our whole lives. So hopefully women really stick with this, that the interest never dies down. So that's how I got into this space. I'm really excited to answer some of your questions today because, you know, like I just mentioned, our hormones are everything. They really they determine how we look and feel and operate on a daily basis. And most of us just aren't given this information. We're not given this handbook, you know, because of how society is structured. Most of our mothers don't know this information either. So it's not like something that they really necessarily passed on to us. So we're navigating these like what seems to be new waters, right? Of just like our internal ecosystem. We're learning, we're exploring, we're having fun. And then the idea is that we then share that with our sisters, our friends, our future daughters, you know, like it just keeps going on, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm so excited. You know, I have 3 kids. And so I'm actually in this phase right now where I'm trying to learn more about my hormones and balance my hormones, because although I've been postpartum for 2.5 years, I still don't feel 100% me. And I think, a lot of our eyes have become open over the last 2 to 3 years. Infertility is on the rise. Although I didn't struggle with that, I have so many friends that are struggling with that. And it's really about getting to the root of it and understanding, why is this on the rise? Why is this happening to more and more young women where our hormones are not balanced, and whether that's the food that we eat or what we consume, or the pills that were prescribed, right? That are just a Band-Aid for something. And so that's what I've really appreciated about the natural approach to rebalancing my hormones, is it's getting to the root of the problem and not just, putting me on birth control or, doing things that are not unnatural. So I'm excited today. We have so many women that are listening to this podcast that are in that phase of life that you've talked about, that I've talked about, and that really just want to have that knowledge to empower them to ask the right questions and seek the right information. So with that being said, how do you approach hormone health and your cycle, issues in your practice specifically?
Great question. There are the foundations of health that I educate on, I really highly encourage across all platforms. So social media, our podcast, and especially when I'm working with someone one-on-one. So those foundations are, I'm sure many people listening can guess them. Sleep, having high quality sleep is where it all starts. You can take all of the supplements and the herbs. They could be the highest of quality. You could be getting outside, eating those nutritious foods. If you're sleeping less than, 6 hours a night, a lot of, things are going to be going on in your body the day following. And if it's chronic, then the days following, right? And it's going to build upon each other, and your body's not going to be able to heal. When we sleep, that's really when we do the bulk of our detoxification, our cellular repair and rejuvenation, and just our total body reparation. So if we're not getting those, 7 to 9 hours, really for women, like I really like to see 8 to 9 hours actually. If we're not getting those Z's, we're not able to be our full selves in terms of our health and our happiness. So it starts off with sleep, and then we move into nutrition as well. And usually when I'm working with someone, it's like a month. We're moving through, like each week has its own theme, so to say, of what we're trying to adopt. So instead of me just like telling people at once, like, okay, tonight I want you to, sleep the best you've ever slept. I want you to then wake up and eat 3 meals that are blood sugar balancing, all organic. We move things slowly. I'm not like, just do it all at once, because we don't work like that either. Like we like goals, we like attainable, like feasible goals. So nutrition. And we really focus on nutrition. Like, what is nutrition? A lot of nutrition is actually unlearning what we thought was healthy for us, especially as women. We were told, most of us were told, right? Not everyone, but we're supposed to eat less. And we are supposed to be very skinny. Like, there are these ideas that, and every culture is different, of course. In every household and every family and every person is different, but overarching theme, you're supposed to be small. You're supposed to be small in all of the ways, in your personality, in your career, in your body, in your looks, everything. So, nutrition, and then we move into detoxification. And again, that's also unlearning, because the health and wellness, like the fad side of things in the marketing industry has really, they've really taken, and not that those, like, I do think that obviously there are herbs that are incredible for detoxification, but also like detoxification is a very vitamin and mineral reliance process. And if you're just drinking juices, especially fruit juices, which I never recommend drinking fruit juices on an empty stomach, but if you're just drinking juices, or you're just fasting, you're not eating anything, you're not actually giving your body what it needs to actually detox. So, there's a right way to support detoxification, and there's a very unhealthy way to, actually make things worse for you in the short term, and perhaps even the long term, especially for women. We see women in my practice, they'll come to me and be like, I, started losing my hair and I lost my cycle, and, cue like the list of symptoms, and I say, okay, what were you doing 3 months ago? And it's like, oh, well, I, did this cleanse, or I, did this detox. And I'm like, well, what did that entail? So we really focus on like true detoxification, how it's something that our bodies and our minds do on a daily and nightly basis, but they do need support because we live in this world that is very convenient. I like to always start with positive. Our world is very convenient now. Like we can get our groceries delivered, we can hop in a car and be somewhere, or a plane, be somewhere very fast. But also like there's so much radiation and chemicals in our environment and toxins that come in and directly impact our endocrine systems, especially as females, where we have a lot more of a delicate endocrine system. So things impact us differently than our male counterparts. So we focus on detoxification, and then we focus on stress reduction, because stress is one of the most potent endocrine and hormone disruptors. And I think most of us can raise our hand of like, we feel some sort of stress throughout the day, and that's fine. That's normal. Cortisol is actually very healthy in, like an acute basis, but when it's chronic, when we're constantly stressed out because we're just getting bombarded with thing after thing, we pop on our email and we perceive that as stress because our inbox is full. And then our phone's getting blown up by one of our coworkers. And then, we have to walk the dog. It's like a lot of it is perception too. Like, how do we perceive that, right? Our brains don't know if we're running from a lion, that's why we're stressed, or if we're stressed because, we're in an argument with our partner. So there's no distinction there. It's stress regardless. And the same biochemical processes are going to happen in the body, suppressing certain functions such as ovarian functions, such as digestion and our thyroid, and it's going to upregulate our stress hormone. So, in an acute, like short term, that's fine. That's actually healthy and it can support to reduce overall inflammation. But when we're constantly in that state, that's when we lose our cycles. That's when our thyroid starts to get out of whack. That's when we then start to, experience all of those symptoms, such as the hair thinning and falling out. And we just don't feel energized, we don't feel happy, we don't feel sexy, we don't feel like ourselves. So reducing stress is huge, and there are a lot of things in our lives that we do have control over, and there are some, of course, that we don't. So it's more so of like, how can you support yourself to, let's say, you hate answering emails. That's kind of me. So like for me, I'm like, okay, how can we then make this a fun practice? Like light some candles or incense around you, like wrap yourself in your most comfortable blanket and put on your slippers and just make it fun. And if you can't do that, then what can you do after you do that activity that you don't like so much, that you do really enjoy? And really it's just about like, yes, of course, decreasing the amount of things that don't bring you joy, but actually what's even more beneficial is how you view those things and how much more pleasure you can add into your day. So, that is like where it's very bio-individualized. All of these things are bio-individualized. So, someone that I work with and like their nutrition plan is going to vary, of course, from one person to the next, but the principles are always there, right? Like we want quality food. We want to opt for organic. We want to, as much as possible, we want to reduce the amount of inflammatory foods. We want to support our local farmers, especially regenerative farms. So there are like foundations or like, themes that everyone can follow. But when it gets into like the nitty gritty, everyone's so different. And everyone has different allergies and, their guts are in different states. So everything is going to look slightly different. So that's how I work with people. It's like, I take that framework, which everyone should start there. And I help them because at the end of the day, I can do all the research that I do. I can read all the books. I can, have these types of conversations, but each patient of mine knows their body the best. And sometimes they come in and they're not very self-aware. And so it's really like, first we have to work on that. Like, how can we incorporate more awareness into your day of how you're breathing, how you're feeling, all of these things so that you can then show up to these sessions and we can work together on like, how, especially when it comes to nutrition, it's like, what foods really do make you feel good? Because I don't know that, like I'm not with you, I'm not experiencing your body. So it's a bunch of things in one. I feel like sometimes I'm a therapist too. I feel like some women come in and see me, and especially with the first session, if they're on hormonal contraceptive or just got off, they have a lot of emotion to get out about that. And sometimes I just, my role is just to sit there and listen and support. So every session looks a little different, which is exciting. Yeah. It keeps me on my toes always.
It's got to keep your job exciting. And I do think it goes to show just how important the one-on-one intentionality of this approach is. If you typically go to a doctor, and I'm not here to knock any doctors specifically, but how much time do they actually get with you? And there we go. It's not as much as you probably are spending with your clients, and making sure that they really understand the why behind these different, habits that they need to create or how they need to get in tune with their body. And so, talk to me a little bit about now, I love the 4 buckets, the 4 foundations. Now, how does, where does the herbalist side come into it, and how do you prescribe that? And really, where do you see that supportive nature into your practice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And really quickly before we switch over, I just want to mention that, the average doctor's appointment is about 7 minutes long. Mm-hmm. And so it's very, very short. So yes, I definitely, myself and a lot of other naturopaths and practitioners that I know, that's, the key differential, right? Is like, we actually listen, we actually care. And not that all doctors don't care. I actually had a ton of doctors in my program. And one of my very dear friends is a gynecologist who now considers himself a holistic gynecologist, and has completely left the system. So, and this is coming from someone who has not had the best run personally with doctors. Yeah. I still give them like a lot of loving grace. And I know a lot who are in my schooling who are like, I want to learn more, I actually want to learn about food. So we're all people at the end of the day. But I think it's one of my girlfriends.
And it is the people,
it is.
I think it's the system that they're placed in of, how many patients can you see in a day, and how do we squeeze that down, or so we can make more money. And so I agree, like, it's not the people, it's sometimes also just the system that they're provided.
Totally. Yeah, one of my best friends had an ultrasound. She's having some follow-up things going on, and she texted me yesterday and she's like, I just want you, like, if you have the time and space, if you could please look over this stuff for me, because my nurse practitioner and doctor said it's, normal, but we know what that means. Like, it could also not be normal. So, it's, which always like makes me so happy when people text me. I'm like, yes, I'm here. But anyway, so moving on to herbs. I love herbs because of my personal experience with them and success with them. And because they are just an abundance in nature. And so to me, it's just always made sense inside of my mind that like everything that we need is already provided for us. And that being said, there are an incredible amount of herbs, and each herb has so many different actions. And when you combine them with other herbs, then they have a new subset of action. So not every single person should be taking every single herb. So that's where it's, you should be working with a trusted herbalist. But there are what I call the entry-level herbs. Then there's like the middle tier, and then there's the higher tier, which are like super custom. You're really, really working with a naturopath, an herbalist specifically if possible, who knows the herbs, knows how much you should be taking based on your constitution, based on your condition, and how long you should be taking it for. And then there are these herbs, which pretty much all herbs are building your system, which is why I love them so much, is that they have so many different ways of working within the body, whereas a medication has a one-way path of working. And pretty much 100% of the time, medications also have side effects with them. Herbs have many different actions of working, especially when we're working with these herbs known as adaptogens, which do what exactly how it sounds. They adapt to whatever you need. And they don't give you these crazy harmful side effects. One major side effect of medication is that it deteriorates your gut lining and it really messes with your gut. If we're messing with our gut, then a lot of other things are going to be messed with in our body. So that's why I love herbs, is because they're powerful, but they're gentle as well. And it's, some people would disagree with me on this. I honestly have not met one herbalist who has disagreed with me on this, but it's a woman's healing art as well. And if you go back in the literature, of course, we see men working with herbs too, historically speaking, and in present day. I have male herbalists on my team as well. But if we really go back to like the communities, where generally speaking, the women were staying within the community. We're healing. We're the healers. We're the caregivers. And we had such a beautiful, powerful role within the community. And then would go out and hunt and gather, also incredibly important as well, of course, because we need food. And it's just beautiful to see that, like, women, we were the healers. And nowadays it seems kind of opposite, right? It seems that, we're actually the majority of the sick, portion of the population. And there are actually, statistically speaking, more female doctors than there are males, which I was really surprised actually when I found that out, because I feel like I've seen more male doctors. But anyway, I digress. But that being said, herbs are beautiful for so many ways. I feel as though many women feel this connection to them that perhaps they don't even fully understand. And it may not be with herbs. It may not be with like tincturing your own bottles, but it could just be with cooking, right? Or, just being outside, touching a tree, touching plants, gardening. I feel more often than not, I meet women who that does provide some sense of comfort and healing, even if they don't recognize the healing portion. So that's why I love herbs. They're incredible. Yeah. And my herbal tincture, specifically Soothe, was my hero product. That was my number one. And I thought that was going to be my only one. And, everyone kind of laughed at me on my team of like, you really think you're only going to want to formulate one? Like, you love herbs. And a year and a half later, we're 3 in. But Soothe is for so much, but overarching, it's for your hormones and for your cycle, and to regulate your hormones and to regulate your cycle. But there are 10 different herbs in there. Each of them, if you were just to take them singularly, would have powerful effects on your body and mind. And then the combinations within Soothe, we have various combinations, really, really work specifically for symptoms of PMS, which there are over 160 symptoms associated under PMS. So it's a very broad term, but I'll just name some that are the most common. Breast tenderness, the mood swings, the weight gain, the breakouts, hormonal acne, the heavy periods, the irregular cycles. There's so many things that fall under PMS. And then I have bitters, which are a digestive support to be taken before meals, also after meals if you feel like a little bit heavier after a meal. It's also supposed to, it also supports nutrient absorption. And it's sometimes speaking English is so hard. It supports nutrient absorption and liver detoxification as well. Bitters is something that we used to consume a lot more of. And in today's world, the most bitter thing that people consume is coffee. But most people are then adding cream and sugar to it. So then you're actually losing that bitter component. And we have bitter receptors on our tongue and in our intestinal tract. And so it stimulates everything to start producing the digestive juices, get things going like, hey, we're about to eat food, right? So incredibly helpful too, especially during the day if you're working up until you eat lunch and then you work after lunch. And it's like your body is in this, again, it's in the sympathetic mode. It is doing things, right? Like it's not necessarily relaxed as you're running around doing errands and working. So to take that before lunch really supports your body and also your vagus nerve as well. Like literally herbs, I mean, we could talk for hours and hours about how, for example, bitters, right? Like primary method of action is digestion, nutrient absorption, and liver detoxification, but also it's supporting your vagus nerve. Like, we have this incredible research on how the bitterness, just tasting the bitters, makes you so grounded and present, really stimulates your vagus nerve, which travels from your brain to your gut and just soothes your nervous system. So many incredible benefits. And then Sleepy is coming out next week, actually, and that's an herbal sleep support formula. And I'm very excited for that one because I have historically struggled with sleep issues. I sleep really great nowadays, but I really struggled with it back in the day for a very long time. I literally was a test study in sleep clinics because they just could not figure out why I couldn't sleep. And my culprit was birth control. And I know a lot of women, my mom, my sisters, what really inspired it too was my sister who just had a baby, could not sleep, was just very anxious. She needed something gentle, to get her to sleep. And so I was like, well, Sleepy, this formula that I've had in the back of my mind for a while now, let's bring this to life. So that is about to launch. It is on its way actually to our fulfillment center. So it will be ready to ship out starting next week. And herbs like ashwagandha in there support just your overall nervous system. So not only will you sleep better that night, but you'll wake up the next day feeling great. So in conclusion, like, if I didn't drive this home hard enough, herbs are my favorite because they just benefit you in so many ways and they build up your system. And we need more of that. We need more of, like, yes, we want to feel great in the moment. We want a quick fix because that's how humans are. And that's okay because herbs can provide that as well. But also we want to provide that long-term strength, vitality, and support so that the goal is all of these negative symptoms that you are perhaps feeling right now in this moment, that they're not as present moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I want to add all of those to my cart right now and start taking them. So you spoke about them so beautifully. One more topic I want to just talk about with our listeners, because and then we'll wrap it up here. But talk to us. You've talked a little bit about cycles. What is cycle syncing? And, just give us an overview and obviously the benefits of that for women.
Yes. So cycle syncing is a term and method coined by Alyssa Beatty. And you'll see many women in this space refer to it as a couple different things. So menstrual cycle tracking, cycle charting. There are a couple different terms that people use for it. But what it is the practice of changing the foods that you eat, the way that you move your body in terms of exercise and movement, and the way that you structure just your entire life. So personal, your business life, all of the things around your cycle. And why anyone should ever even consider doing that is because we go through these beautiful and very predictable changes in our hormones. So our hormones fluctuate very predictably. If you're not on hormonal contraceptive and if you have a regulated cycle, we are very, very predictable, which is pretty ironic because, there's this stereotype that women are so unpredictable and emotional and moody. And it's like, no, we're very predictable, actually, like very, very predictable. It's funny because actually men, what impacts their testosterone production, is very sensitive, right? Like, and it can change very abruptly. There's not
they're the unpredictable ones.
They're unpredictable. Love them.
Yes.
I love my male partner so much, and I can't wait to go hug and squeeze him after this episode. But yeah, they're more unpredictable. So anyway, we have this beautiful fluctuation of our hormones throughout our cycle, and because of that, so much is changing. It's not just our hormones, but our brain is changing structure throughout our cycle. Our ability to brainstorm, to create, to socialize, all of these things are also changing as our brain changes throughout our cycle. And with that, our nutrient needs also change. So, and then also didn't mention resting heart rate, for example. So this is where, changing up your workouts really comes in handy. It also makes sense why, for example, during our luteal phase, we want to eat a little bit more, and we should be eating a little bit more. And moving, yes, still moving our body, but not like this crazy high intensity workout, because our body's not going to be able to recover as quickly as it would when we have that higher, natural energy during our follicular, or more specifically towards the end of our follicular phase. And when we're ovulating, we have so much energy then, our body's able to recover faster. We have a higher resiliency for stress as well. That's why we feel like we can do everything, right? Like we can drop the kids off at school, and then we can go work out, and then we can go grocery shopping and make meal. Like we can do all this stuff, right? And at the end of the day, again, if things are balanced and healthy, we feel sexy too. And then we transition to the luteal phase, and it's like, I don't want to do any of this. Like I want to, it's like all of your desires and what you crave, not just in food, but like in terms of connection with people, in terms of what activities you want to do for your business, how you want to move your body, it really changes. And when we try to combat that and go against that, that's when we start to notice our body fights back in terms of, and maybe I shouldn't say fights back, because that seems like we're at odds with our own self, but it sends signals in terms of symptoms. So, if you're experiencing PMS, if you don't ovulate one cycle, it's like, well, what was I doing 1 month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? If you're pushing yourself, your body is going to downregulate certain things that perhaps aren't needed for, to live, such as reproductive function, although incredibly important. We need to ovulate in order to make our hormones. We don't need it to survive. We can survive for a while without it. So it's going to suppress a lot of those things. It's going to suppress metabolism. You're going to experience all these symptoms. So that's why it's just, highly recommend just listening to your body, right? Like if you wake up one morning during your luteal phase and you want to sleep an extra 20 minutes even, and you want to eat breakfast first before you go to work out or whatever it is, listen to that, right? Like your mornings and your days should look very different throughout your cycle. For me, I actually can wake up, like when I'm ovulating, I have the energy. I just did it 2 days ago. I woke up early. I went to yoga, and at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. And then I came back and ate breakfast. Now that would really mess me up if I was on my period and I was waking myself early to go work out fasted, and everyone's different, right? Like some people, depending on the state of their health right now, should never work out fasted. If they are just got off birth control, they're in a very stressed out state, or regardless of what the situation is, if they're in a very stressed out state, they should not be doing fasted workouts. They should eat something before they move their body. So everyone is so different, but that's why I love cycle syncing, is it because it encourages this self-awareness, and it encourages the changing up of routines and habits and nutrition and all these things throughout your cycle, just to support yourself, like with the end goal of supporting you, making you feel your happiest and healthiest.
Yeah. Wow. So much knowledge here. Thank you so much, Maddie, for joining us. And I know that you have so much more on your podcast. So if you want to share, with our listeners where they can find more of this information and where they can find you on social, they can start learning directly from you as well.
Absolutely. My podcast is just Peace Love Hormones, and our website is also Peace Love Hormones. You can find the podcast on Apple and on Spotify. And for social media, it's just my handle, so I can share them with you, Morgan. But Peace Love Hormones is the brand Instagram page, and then mine is just my name. Except someone already took Maddie Miles, so it's the Maddie Miles. And I just say that because people are always like, all my friends are like, "Oh, the Maddie Miles," and I'm like, Maddie Miles is taken, okay?
Well, we will make sure to link all of those in the show notes as well, so they can click and find you directly. Thank you again, Maddie. Everybody, thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to our channel on both YouTube and on podcasts so you never miss an episode. And we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day.